What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Radiovania, episode number 66.
Oh shit, the devil's number.
Oh yeah. And the devil should be happy because we're coming at you booty call style from Columbus, Ohio. My name is Zach Rotello, at Zach Rotello on Twitter, on all the social medias, and sitting across from me is the flanneled, the lovely, the stumbling John Swanson Parker.
I am only stumbling because I want to be. The person who's stumbling is her.
Hell yeah. This is Carly Simendinger.
That's right, Cal. You heard it. She's back.
You asked for it, and you got it.
Here I am.
So we're coming to you live. We're coming to you live post Captain Marvel. We just seen the movie. We have opinions on it, I'm sure, and John and I and Carly are going to discuss the ins and outs of the film. But first, if you've never listened to an episode of Radiovania before, it's very simple. We're just going to talk about the things that we like to talk about, you know?
Let's do it.
Let's
talk about the shit that we like.
We talk about the things we like. So here's what I want to ask you: is that do you want to jump right into Captain Marvel while it's still fresh?
Hell yeah, before I forget.
Okay, so then we're gonna do the first couple minutes, and I'll tell John when we cut it off. Non-spoilers. It's gonna be completely surface level. If we like the movie, if we didn't like the movie, if we would recommend it, just general impressions, and then we will clearly define when we're going into spoilers and when we're going to talk about the whole movie. So, John, without further ado, what did you think of Captain Marvel?
It is one of the many cinematic universe Marvel movies. I think if you want to see Endgame, it is a requirement at this point. But overall, I would say that this is not one of my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. I would compare it, not that it's a bad thing, but I would compare it to like middle of the road, like Iron Man sequels, Thor sequels, in that vein. Not like accelerating the medium in the way that like Captain America's sequels did or the Spider-Man movies did later on.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Non-spoiler.
Yeah, sure.
Completely. I mean, like, still worth seeing. A lot of cool visual effects, but did not blow me away.
I agree with that assessment of the film. As a person who has seen almost all of the Marvel movies in the cinematic universe, except for, save one or two.
In theaters?
No.
Not quite, but like still part of the fandom.
Sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And as a fan of them, I would say I was a little disappointed because I felt like it had such a huge build-up and such a big expectation of what it could be. And I mean, not to be the dick who compares it to Wonder Woman, but like I was kind of hoping for something as fun and exciting and thrilling, and it was just not. So that was a little disappointing for me, honestly. Yeah, it was not what I was expecting. Didn't have the content that I was expecting. So, but it was fun. But, yeah.
I like this movie a lot. I think it's better than most middle-of-the-road Marvel movies. I think I'd rank this a little bit higher than, like, Doctor Strange and a little bit lower than something like Guardians, something in like that realm, like not quite as good as like Guardians
higher
or Civil
than Doctor
War.
Strange, but lower than Guardians.
Something like that, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I really liked. I really liked the tone of the film. It was not dealing with the subject matter that it dealt with. It wasn't too like up its own ass. It wasn't very. It took the subject matter seriously, but the subject matter was also kind of silly. And I liked what it did with the formula. It wasn't a traditional origin story, which I kind of appreciated. I expected this movie to echo Captain America, the First Avenger, a whole lot, and it didn't really do that. it kind of took its own path, and I really want to watch it again. We had a couple drinks beforehand. I was kind of, for all these Marvel movies, I'm always like so excited when I first go into them. This one especially, I was really looking forward to because I love Brie Larson. I was intrigued by the whole setup to Endgame. Obviously, this movie taking place in the 90s, bring back Coulson, young Nick Fury. So I was curious to know what they were going to do with it. And a lot of the aspects of the movie that they delivered on, for me personally, were those like retroistic things, like bringing back young Sam Jackson and Coulson. Those things really struck home for me. The things that I thought were really bizarre were, we'll get into with when we talk about spoilers, but I thought the villain was extremely underutilized and very weak.
I don't think there was a villain.
There is not really a villain, but the villain, it's hazy, right? It's hazy. And then the other thing is that the tie into Endgame is
weak.
Literally just a post credit sequence. While it did give me chills, did make me excited.
I mean, it gives us all chills, but it felt really cheap. It felt like you're paying the price of admission to watch a bonus scene from Endgame a month early. That's what it felt like to me.
Okay.
Because I guarantee you that scene is going to be replicated in that movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens when they do the full thing in Endgame, but, I mean, for now, I mean, I like the movie a lot. I mean,
I'm not saying I don't like the movie.
Sure, I mean...
I don't think it's the best of the Marvel movies.
No.
I don't think it's even close.
No.
I wouldn't even put it in my top 10. And I think that is... I mean, it's not fun to say, but I would say that it seems like they handled subject matter in a little bit of a convoluted way. Say what you want about my current state of mind, but I felt like the beginning of the movie, I felt was really convoluted. Like, really convoluted. And not like in a Venom way, but like a really, like, the hell is going on?
Yeah. Well,
in a way that's very different, and I think I'm going to compare this a lot, but in a way that's very different from Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, you're handling the cosmic subject matter in a very completely way, which is going to take some getting used to. And it's not to say that you can't do it, because I want them to adapt into the Skrulls and Galactus and the Fantastic Four and all that cosmic shit. But in the way that they handled it, it was just like really jarring for me.
Yeah. Do you recommend this movie?
I mean, obviously I recommend the movie. I mean, like, I think a majority of the comic book movies, whether you like them or not, are worth seeing.
I recommend it. I mean, if you're interested at all in Marvel, this is a good movie in the canon of MCU. This will be...
It's like a good interlude.
This is
Endgame.
What I'm thinking about this is like I guess the last movie that I have fresh in my mind is Ant-Man and the Wasp. That
was the last future release, right?
Yeah. This movie has a little bit more consequence, which I guess makes it seem a little bit more important. Whether or not I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp more or this more, I think I enjoyed this more. It's a toss-up, though. I really like Paul Rudd and Evangeline
I like
Lilly.
Ant-Man and the Wasp more than this movie.
I agree wholeheartedly with that.
I do.
This is one of my least favorite Marvel movies.
It's nothing against like the directors and the performances. It's just the way that they took the plot for me.
I agree with that completely. Like, because I was actually really excited about this because, like, I love Brie Larson. I had high hopes for this movie, but it just like really didn't meet my expectations. And I mean, we talked about like our pre-movie predictions, and like I didn't really have any, but I guess in hindsight, I really just expected this to be a really cool, neat movie, and honestly, it really didn't meet those expectations disappointingly.
So would you recommend the movie?
I would, just because I think it's still worth seeing, because it's part of the universe.
At this point,
and
you can't miss an MCU movie.
Exactly. I don't think you can just say like, fuck it, it's not worth seeing, because of just how like crucial all of the movies are now, I feel like, in, you know, the quote-unquote end game of the Marvel Universe. But, so, yeah, I do, but also I don't really see, apart from the end sequence, how this is really important, and I expected it to be way more important and
Interesting.
like a turning point.
I will say before you continue.
Sure.
I apologize to interrupt.
You're fine.
Two things. One, Brie Larson is a fantastic actress, and given what she has to deal with, I think she does a great job.
Agreed.
But two, following Infinity War is a nearly impossible task to set up an origin story, I think. I think that teasing her origin at the end of a movie that has 10 years of cinematic experience riding on it is really tough. And I think they did a fairly good job of introducing a character that's going to be a major player in Endgame, but I don't think it's enough to establish a weight of a Tony Stark or a Steve Rogers or a Bruce Banner or any of those characters that are going to be in Endgame. I think it'll be cool when she shows up, but that's just it. I think it'll just be cool. You know what I mean? Versus like establishing a emotional connection to a movie that we all saw in 2008 when we were in middle school. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be really tough to be able to make that emotional connection.
Yeah, I was expecting her to like make some kind of connection with what we already knew in the cinematic universe, and that also didn't happen, and again was kind of a letdown, honestly, for my part.
Okay, so my last question before we move into like full spoiler discussion is: would you recommend this to someone who doesn't? Would you recommend this to someone that's not invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
No.
Would you recommend this to a casual movie fan?
No.
So you don't think it's a casual movie goer film?
No.
If you recommend this to a casual movie fan, you have to describe it as like a Men in Black sequel, is what I would describe
But then
it
it's
as.
not a casual moviegoer, so it's kind of...
But in the vein, you know what I mean? Like, lighthearted, discovering aliens in the real world, because that's the best part of the movie, is that first, like, 40 minutes where they're at Blockbuster, and they're calling each other on payphones, and they're in the cars with fucking...
Hold on, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
All right,
sorry.
So there's full spoiler discussion beginning right now. If you don't want to listen to any of the rest of the podcast, just move on. We're going to talk complete spoilers.
Sorry to everybody before that, but...
Didn't know there was a
payphones in this movie!
Of our three...
Be aware! There's payphones!
Of our three main listeners, they're invested.
Yeah.
And I'm ready.
Okay, so... Alright. So let's talk about it kind of chronologically, right? So...
Which is difficult.
It is difficult. So I had some big problems with the way the movie opens. It's incredibly jarring. For someone like, we talked about this before we went to the movie, but you were like, how much do you know about the movie? How much do you want me to talk about it with? And it's like, right, I know nothing about Captain Marvel and Carol Danvers except for what I know from the trailers and like little tidbits and pieces that I've learned along the way. The opening of the film does nothing to establish her as a character, as her own. You don't start to develop her as a character until she lands on Earth post like mission, right? Which is a bad decision in my part.
It is, but I'm going to let you continue.
Well, the only thing I had to say was that like that was my jumping off point, was that I feel like a lot of this movie's a lot of my problems with the movie stem from the fact that I don't feel like it took me a long time to really connect with the character of Carol, right? Like I love Brie Larson. I wanted to like her character, but I didn't find any strong emotional resonance until there's that scene with her friend where they meet back at the base camp, right? And they start bonding, where there's the daughter, and then they start talking about all this stuff, and that's when it started really hitting home.
One of the greatest states of the
human.
United States, Louisiana.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so that was, in my opinion, that's where the movie should have kind of started off. But I understand that they're trying to set her up as this cosmic character, and they're trying to set up this giant backstory with the Kree War, which is a huge deal in the comics, right? Like The Kree
is.
space
Okay,
soldiers
so
fighting all these people.
If I may interject.
Go ahead, yeah.
The Kree and the Skrull hate each other. Like, absolutely hate each other. That being said, I don't know if that's the best idea with your first movie.
Sure.
Is to lean into that race war. That's what it boils down to. It's a comic race war, right? Cosmic creatures hating other cosmic creatures who commit genocide against each other. I don't know if that's the best idea to start with.
It was definitely
And
confusing.
we will dive into that a little later on into our review.
Sure.
But I will agree with the opening of the movie. And here's what I was thinking when I was watching it. Okay, I was like, this seems like a 21st century James Bond opening, where it's like we have one agent on the inside who's going to do the bulk of the work, but like we're not supposed to expect who it is, but like we do, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's Captain Marvel versus Verde, it's James Bond. That's kind of how I felt, right? And obviously, as the plot progresses, we find ourselves tipping our expectations on our heads.
Okay.
With the Skrulls.
Yeah.
But that
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later.
But otherwise, like the way that the opening is shot, really cool. Like, I think, I mean, like both of you may disagree, but like I love
spaceship.
So here's the deal. I love Alien and Aliens, both Ridley Scott and James Cameron. And any type of derelict spaceship in a fucking fog, I'm in. Like, give me that shit. Give me a xenomorph. Like, I'm ready. You know what I mean? Like, anytime that a type of, like, cognitive, like, humanoid race is up against some type of, like, derelict alien race, I'm in for it. But it's not exactly what we got. But it was a cool opening. It was just a jarring opening. And if you were a standby Marvel fan or an MCU fan and only that, completely confusing.
Yeah. The opening it starts without any concrete like.
Do you think I'm not listening?
No, I know you're not listening. I'm just fucking with it.
Like I think about I'm trying to think of like think of all the pillars of Marvel, right? There's Guardians, there's Iron Man, there's Hulk, there's Thor, there's Captain America. Each one of those movies opens with a very definitive, like, this is who this character is, this is where you're supposed to go with it. And I feel like I kind of respect the fact that the filmmakers wanted to take you on a little bit more of a journey, that you weren't necessarily supposed... I get the sense that the filmmakers, or whoever wrote the script, was saying, like, the audience isn't going to know who this person is because she doesn't know who she is. She's on this journey and she doesn't know what's going on, and you're supposed to be on that journey with her so that when she does realize who she is, when she says, I am Carol, right, that moment's really powerful. And it was. But it also means I didn't connect with any of the beginning of the film.
And I will say, there is one moment in this film where I cried. Did either of you cry in this movie?
I got a little choked up. I got a little choked up a couple times.
I didn't cry.
All right, I
but
cried.
There were parts where I was like emotional during it.
I cried when they were all walking toward their fighter jets, but maybe it's just because my dad was in the service for a while.
Yeah,
with the Air Force. I think I would piggyback off of that for sure. Definitely. So going from the beginning onward reaches my favorite part of the movie.
Okay, well, can we talk about the trippy dream sequence, right?
Is that part of the beginning?
Would you
consider that?
I would call that the bridge between the beginning and when the plot starts getting in motion, because that's right before she lands the blockbuster.
See,
right?
That's where I think they lose people.
Exactly. That scene was poorly directed and edited.
It's bad.
It's badly edited.
It's like
not necessarily
Last Jedi
like, shit.
I think the directing in this movie is great.
Yeah.
It's the piecing it together that is a little difficult, and that's what happens when you choose a movie that has multiple timelines and multiple beats, right? It's you ask Bob Zemeckis about Back to the Future, and like piecing all those movies together it's a challenge, right?
Sure. Well, this is one of those instances.
I think that this movie handles the period piece really well,
for sure,
and that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. I would say that the first 45 minutes of Captain Marvel are my favorite 45 minutes of Captain Marvel, and that has nothing to do with my alcohol intake whatsoever. I would say that is the best constructed and best edited part of Captain Marvel.
I don't know. I think it starts to come together towards the end.
Together.
I disagree. I think the editing started to get a little bit more cohesive towards the end. I feel like as soon as it gets to the part where she's on Earth, she's human, she's interacting with Nick Fury, and then they go to that compound where her friend is, I think that's when you start to get the human element, and that's where it starts to be like relatable, and that's when I was along for the ride.
All right. I want to talk about that. But what about you? Human part of Captain Marvel.
If I had to pick which part I felt like was most relatable to me as a human woman, sure.
Which is important.
Sure. I'm giving you guys the,
female perspective.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I would say, honestly, it was from the very beginning and the very end. Like, I see both of your perspectives, but it's not completely accurate to me in that way. Like, I see the period piece part of it. I see her memories as when she comes back with her friend and her friend's daughter
and cat.
Sure, exactly.
Goose.
The cat. But I feel like it's all just so compartmentalized and not really the whole picture. Like, I don't feel like any part of this movie you're really getting the full effect or the full picture of Captain Marvel. And I don't know. Like, I see more of it from both of your perspectives at the very beginning and the very end, but neither of them really, to me, gave me what I was hoping for.
May I pause this conversation real quick?
Go ahead and pause.
If you don't mind.
What are you pausing for?
What did the three of you, including myself, think about Annette Bening being Mar Vell versus Jude Law?
So I didn't understand a lick of what was happening there.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, so, I mean, you had kind of half spoiled it. You were like, do you know who Mar Vell is? Or like, I was like, oh, Jude Law's in this movie. You're like, do you know who Mar Vell is? And I was like, no, I don't. And you were like, I don't want to spoil it.
I would like to think that I lead it a little bit better than that.
You did
but
not.
I might also be horrible.
You did not. I totally. You were like, do you know who Mar Vell is? And I was like, no, I don't. And you were like,
at least I didn't tell you who he was.
You didn't tell me who he was, but at the same time, it's like I could have pieced two and two together. That was that was easier than fucking.
Don't tell me.
Whatever it was.
Don't say it.
What was
Don't
Legion?
Say it. I don't
right?
want. God damn.
That was easier than Legion to piece together. But it's like at this, Jude Law is made out to be menacing from the very beginning of the movie. It's like, who wouldn't fucking put that?
I didn't like that. I didn't like that. And this ties into you and me's bet.
I did not.
You paid him out like a villain, Mark. I didn't. Okay. If you wanted to add a surprise to the movie, you don't pay them out to be like a fucking sinister group of people at the beginning of the film. Right from the moment that opening sequence happened, where they're like invading this desert-esque Blade Runner 2049-esque planet, I was like, I'm gonna lose the bet to Carly. Like, Ronan's gonna show up, but he's gonna be like the leader of the army, and they're gonna be like awful people. Yeah, like that. I knew it right from the beginning, and it feels like shit, and she doesn't even care because she's fucking on her phone. But
I do care.
I felt I was like, Jude Law is not
awful people.
Yeah, Jude Law is not who I thought he was. He is the Obadiah Stane of this film.
Okay,
he is.
I mean, he's the villain.
No. Like, if you have to compare him to Tony Stark, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. They both have similar powers. I mean, I know Tony and Obadiah have a suit, but like in terms of their arc, it's very similar how they achieve their powers. It's through a different way.
But I mean, like, Marvel doesn't really, like, get powers. He just
But
kind
he's
of
not
is
Mar Vell.
evil the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, for all intents and purposes. It's like that other
He
character.
just takes
doesn't really-
Marvel's ideals and he twists them in like a fucking Attack of the Clones way, where he's just like, it takes it to an extreme.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to ask is, and this goes,
But
so I'm going to pull this
Jude
up.
Law really, like, he really goes for it. You know what I mean? Like, he really throws that dialogue there, like goddamn Danny DeVito in Batman Returns. Like, he's
Sure.
just, he's going for it. He's
Sure.
going for it. And I really appreciate the fact that they committed to it, if you will. Because this is, I mean, like, think about this. In 2019, did we ever think we would get a Captain Marvel movie where they're throwing around Kree and Skrull like it's goddamn stop signs in McDonald's? No.
Well, and what I want to hammer down even harder than that is that did we think that we were going to get a Captain Marvel movie in 2019? And also, Captain Marvel, this is from Hollywood Reporter, as of today at 8:24 a.m., it said Captain Marvel flies to historic 153 million in U.S. and 455 million globally. Captain Marvel starring Brie Larson shattered the glass ceiling in its box office debut. The tentpole's global launch reps the biggest ever for a female-fronted film, eclipsing Beauty and the Beast, as well as the second largest for any superhero picture behind Avengers Infinity War. Overall, it's the sixth best worldwide bow of all time, and the international opening of 302 million is the fifth biggest ever, ahead of Star Wars The Force Awakens. So what I want to know...
I think that's really great. First of all, before you dive in,
Okay.
that is amazing. That's like, can you imagine in 2009 when we were comparing like Avatar numbers?
Avatar numbers, yeah.
We thought that shit was the second coming. Like, you can't deny that.
Well, it sold
That was
tickets.
almost 10 years ago.
And it was also 3D in every showing, so it was like each ticket cost
Exactly.
like $4 more.
This is spectacular. And the fact that we're doing this about Captain Marvel is awesome. Anyway, sorry.
Well, so my question about that is that, like, it's a weird movie. It's got weird plots. It doesn't follow any sort of it's like traditional story arc. It doesn't have a traditional character hero like that has a arc from A to B to C. It doesn't have a traditional villain, and it ties into this universe that already has like 20 films attached to it.
Yeah.
And this movie is already shattering box office results, right? So it's successful. It's going to be successful. If the numbers continue like they are, it's going to be one of the most successful comic book movies ever, maybe behind Black Panther. So, my question is, do you think audiences are coming away with this same feelings that we are? Or do you think that it's like, since we're so invested in this universe that we're not nitpicking, but diving too far into the details when it seems like general audiences are really enjoying this film? You have your hand raised. You may answer the question.
I think general audiences will enjoy this film. I think it's a fun film. I think it's a really well acted and directed and produced film. But I will say that in terms of the most recent Marvel Cinematic Universes and those films that they have produced, it fails. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to exceed, right? I mean, if you put it out there, the only other Marvel movie currently is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is currently cleaning house at the box office in a post-Oscar world.
Not a Marvel movie.
But kind of is, right? It has a Marvel property, but it's not a Marvel Cinematic Universe property. I understand what
It's not
you're
a
saying.
Disney property.
Yeah. But it's a better film. By far. By far.
Yeah.
So I think this movie will do really well. I don't think it will do Black Panther well in the way that it will be in theaters, the way that Infinity War and Black Panther will be in the theaters at the same time. I don't think that will happen, which is a shame. But I do think it will do astronomically well, both in terms of the fact that there is, and this isn't to take anything away from the film, but that there is nothing else going on in cinema currently, right? We like
It's a good time for movies.
We like to consider this the preview of the summer, right? February, March, April is like the time to release a movie where you can have almost a whole month to yourself.
January and February are dead months. March, April are like months to get ahead of the game, and then summer is like May through July, August. It's like Captain Marvel's being smart. Shazam? I'm kind of worried about that one. Might not make a whole lot of money because it's kind of smushed in between.
I gotta be honest. I think the Captain Marvel hype might die down by then.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. I think Shazam will have a relatively clean opening by the time that all the shit has died down, and it'll have a nice solid month before Endgame.
All right. We will see.
I think if I wasn't so invested into, you know, the MCU and everything that was happening in it, I'd be a lot more excited about this movie. All of my letdowns are really more about just the ambient movies around it. It's not really, I mean, part of it is about this movie, but a lot of it is because I was expecting so much more because of the setup for this movie. So...
Which doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't help.
If I may interrupt, it does not help the standalone films at all.
It doesn't help. And,
It hurts all of them.
yeah, it does. So, I think, like, you know, piggybacking off your question about how this movie will be received by audiences that aren't as invested in the MCU, I think that it is probably definitely going to be received better than it would be by critics such as us or me, because a lot of people don't have so much invested in it, and just the idea that like it's, you know, it's not such a end-all be-all for the universe, if that
For
makes
Endgame.
sense. Which
Like-
is kind of what I was hoping to build up to, but it didn't at all.
And it kind of did in the way that Captain America, the first Avengers, built literally right into the Avengers because they were released in the same calendar year.
Sure.
Which takes me into a question that I have for both of you, which is, how does this movie affect the pre-release of Endgame?
I don't think it really does. I think that they're not going to treat the marketing material any different. I think there's not going to be another... I think if there's another trailer for Endgame, it's going to be just exactly what we've seen before. They're not going to reveal that Carol is in it because this movie is still going to be in theaters by the time the Endgame comes out. I know that you say the hype is going to die down, but movies like this stay around for months.
Not for Endgame. For Captain Marvel. Is what I meant by hype dying down. For the singular film Captain Marvel.
Rephrase your question then?
No. The question still stands. Like, how does this film affect the marketing for Endgame? I think the marketing for Captain Marvel is still the same, right?
Well, I was saying that for Endgame. They're not going to put Captain Marvel in an Endgame trailer. There's not going to... If there's another Endgame trailer...
I think she will be a part of one later.
No way. Because this movie's going to come out in less than a month. We're a month and like a week away. Sorry, not less than a month. We're a month and like a week and a half away from Endgame coming out. Mm-hmm. This Captain Marvel, if the box office numbers are true, it's going to keep doing successfully, and like unless it has a horrific Batman v Superman level second weekend drop, this movie's going to stay in theaters until Endgame and probably past it. So it's like you don't risk like spoiling this movie by including her into Endgame. Like the people that want to see Captain Marvel have probably already seen this movie. You don't want to like risk diluting the pool. You don't want to have, because her appearance is probably going to be a surprise for the characters in Endgame too. Like we've probably seen the preview of it, but it's probably going to be a genuine surprise.
I agree with that. I mean, But, I mean, as far as marketing, that's not really my realm of, expertise. So, I can't really speak as much to that as far as the movies. But, personally, it just puts that much more pressure on Endgame being amazing, just because personally for me this was a little bit of a letdown. So as far as that movie and marketing, I am hoping for a little bit more thrill and excitement, I guess.
So this is all I want to add about April for Disney as a company. All right, if I may. They have a lot of high caliber films coming out this year. They have Avengers Endgame, which is the culmination of a 11-year plus film plan. They have the end of a recent Star Wars trilogy, which, whether you like it or not, is still a Star Wars trilogy, which is going to make buco bucks. And they have a sequel to Frozen, which is one of the highest money grossing and rated animated films of all time, right? They have a lot of eggs in one basket. It'll be very interesting to see how they handle it. And then tack on top of that the accumulation of Fox as a company, which includes the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, the Simpsons, all of the FX hard-rated shows, like the ones that I like It's Sunny in Always Philadelphia, all that kind of stuff adds to the company in a year that they're still planning to open a Star Wars theme park. Right. It's gonna be an interesting year for Disney, and it'll be interesting how they handle everything in terms of press, right?
For sure.
And announcements and shit.
All right, so still talking Captain Marvel, because there's some stuff we haven't even touched on. We touched on the beginning, and then we got into politics about box office and future films. What do we think about the Skrulls? What did you think about Ben Mendelsohn?
I like Ben Mendelsohn as a character and as an actor, and I think that the visual effects were covered really well for the Skrulls. The direction they took, I did not like.
Really? What didn't you like about it?
Skrulls are one of the Marvel big bads.
I really like this. As someone
that's nothing. That's nothing against it.
Sure.
And I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, well, as someone that didn't know what Skrulls were, it's the same thing I felt like when I didn't know what the Mandarin was, right? Everyone was like, oh, the Mandarin's the fucking best film. And then, I really liked the twist that they pulled with Ben Kingsley. Similarly, I really liked that Ben Mendelsohn was kind of this, this very, grounded, compassionate character that you ended up actually kind of digging, and I liked him a lot.
I loved him.
And when he got shot, I was actually genuinely terrified. Not what I would have been for any of the other characters, because I know that Coulson lives, I know that Fury lives, I know that Brie Larson obviously lives. So it's there removes the tensions, but it's these side characters. I actually found myself kind of rooting for him at some point. So I really liked what they did with the villain. There's no traditional villain.
No,
the villain is kind of
you threw
whoever.
Up air quotes. Can you explain that a little bit?
For what? For villain? Well, there's no villain in the movie. There's no antagonist. The antagonist is kind of the world against Brie Larson.
It's kind of racism.
It's kind of everything. It's negative forces affecting one person. It's how is the negative force of falling in line with your leadership? The negative force of falling in line with what the world wants of you, falling in line with your past, falling in line with who you think you are. It's all these different social things manifesting in all these different ways, kind of bombarding her at the same time. Obviously, it's scaled up because it's aliens and giant ships and explosions and shit, whatever. But it's there's not a singular villain trying to take over something. The closest you can get to that is Ronan trying to put the missiles on the earth, but even that is just it's a metaphor for her being able to finally take control of her powers.
Which I would like to formally admit defeat to Carly, because I literally thought that the Star Force was going to be heroes throughout. And it turns out Ronan is still part of the Star Force up until the end of the film, which turns out to be wrong. So congratulations. You win.
No war paint, though. No war paint on
I think he was
old
extremely underused. Extremely. And I think it was cheap that they released those articles beforehand. But I understand.
They didn't release those also. We reported on that when that was a Hollywood Reporter thing. It was just like set photos of Ronan on the thing. It's like everyone was like, oh my god, it's going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy. No, it's like he was literally just a cameo. If nobody blew this out of proportion, he would have just been a cameo. It would have been fine. But like, I totally get it.
Yeah,
also,
he was there to service the fans that have been around since like phase 1.5.
Sure. My also like on the same vein, my prediction of there being like a classic Avengers character was not realized at all. None of the original Avengers showed up in this, like de-aged
until the end. Until the end,
but that's current time, so it doesn't count. But no Avenger had a part in Carol Danvers' like early life, which is something I found interesting.
I was glad that they didn't, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm really excited
in the
now.
Same way that I was glad that like Wonder Woman or something, like it wasn't derailed by another character.
Okay, so here's something I want to talk about, and this might get in contention. So I don't know if Carly wants to wait to pour the drinks or whatever. If she wants to come sit down or whatever, that's fine.
I would like a drink.
I think this movie is way better than Wonder Woman.
How so?
I think that Wonder Woman was unsatisfactory in the ending. I feel like this movie had a satisfying end and a conclusion to that character where even if there was no end game, I'm trying to look at this movie without the context of there being like this cinematic universe, right?
I know it's
hard. I know it's hard, but I'm trying to look at this movie as a singular movie. I'm trying to remember back in high school when I saw Captain America, and I didn't think about the Avengers. There wasn't something that was even on my radar because I was just like, oh, it's another superhero movie. I think this movie stumbled in the fact of like of being clear and definitive with its lore in the beginning, but I really do feel like the end of this movie gave clear motivation and resolution to a character where there could be further installments. It's not until the end credit scenes where you really tie it into to Avengers and everything like that. When I left Wonder Woman, I loved the trench scene, right? But that's it. I hated the ending of Wonder Woman. It was just black and gray Zack Snyder bullshit and a tarmac, and there was a giant CG villain and a firefight that I hated. At least the ending of Captain Marvel had like some flair and panache and some colorful CG that like really like that stuck with me. I'm looking forward to seeing Captain Marvel again. I have no interest. I have zero interest to go back and watch Wonder Woman. I've only gone to YouTube to watch the trench scene because that is the most powerful scene in that movie, and I will challenge anybody to say otherwise.
I wouldn't disagree.
Sure.
I would say that the sequence in the third act of Wonder Woman involving Chris Pine and Gal Gadot's final goodbye is very like heartfelt. I think that saying goodbye to Steve Trevor without her realizing it is a little. I think I've always found it moving. I don't think that the CGI holds up in that scene, but I don't think that the structure of the scene crumbles necessarily. But that's a personal opinion, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
But to be honest with you, I don't think Captain Marvel will carry any emotional weight in Endgame for me compared to the other Avengers. And that's just how I take it from this movie to the next.
Another thing I want to throw back is that, and I don't mean to keep like opinion rebuttal, but
I mean that's what this podcast is.
Something I want to bring up is Doctor Strange, right? I like Doctor Strange's origin movie quite a bit, but it's one of the weaker Marvel films in my opinion. But
and he has a big role.
But Joe and Anthony Russo, right? They figured that character out in Infinity War.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think that
if they don't direct the sequel of Doctor Strange, then I also won't see the second Doctor Strange.
They announced that the same director for Doctor Strange 1 is attached to the sequel, which I don't know. But the thing is that
clearly made money.
It clearly made money, but the thing is that once you figure out that character, then you can run with it, right? Like I think that the director of Doctor Strange 2, it's the same director as the first one. Motherfucker's got his work cut out for him because The Russo brothers figured out that character. He just has to direct him. And if he directs him wrongly, Marvel's going to step in and be like, oh, could you direct him more like he was in the other movies, right? With Captain Marvel, I think that the Russo brothers have a good opportunity to really... what's the best word? Mold that character for the modern age of Marvel. Like, Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s. This is her origin story. I'm excited to see where she is completely grown up. And I think that's the weight that the movie's going to have. I really am excited to watch. That's the thing, is that like there's not many movies that I really anticipate watching a second time. I feel like I missed a lot of shit in this movie. Because it was the first time I saw it. It was the first time I was like experiencing it. I really want to I want to take this in. I want to be able that when Endgame comes out, I want to make sure that it okay, I know exactly who she is. I know what her motivations are, what her powers are, what her limitations are, her weaknesses, and there you go.
Yeah.
So I think that this movie will maybe benefit people from multiple viewings, but that might just be my own personal opinion.
Will agree. In the same vein that I think that movies like Rogue One will benefit from multiple viewings, right? I think this movie carries a lot of weight on multiple fan viewings, where they're like, the more I watch this, the more I really like these scrolls. You know what I mean? Like, the more I watch this, the more I really like Carol Danvers. And, like, the anticipation for Endgame, which is very soon. That I will agree with you on that. And this is like, again, not to harp on the film anymore. Like, I do think it's a well-constructed film. It's not the best that it could be. I think, and this is my opinion, I think Patty Jenkins did a better job of directing a Wonder Woman film than these co-directors did of directing a Captain Marvel film. It felt too convoluted. Like, it felt like they wanted to do the Secret Invasion comic storyline mixed with like a classic superhero origin story.
Do you think they were getting a lot of studio notes on this?
I do.
You think so?
I really do. Yeah, and it kind of sucks.
I mean, a lot of the Marvel movies get studio notes. But
Kevin Feige tends to ignore them, and they get away with it.
Well, Kevin Feige is the studio.
Yeah, I don't think
he's the studio. It's the directors that would be getting the notes.
Movie.
I think that they got a lot of notes, but it's surprising to me that none of the depending on the producer and the studio involvement, that they still let that first 20 minutes be that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, if I was a studio executive or producer, I would have been like, people might not be like super jazzed about this because it's kind of hard to understand in the first 20 minutes.
For sure.
It's like,
yeah.
You might get some walkouts. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if people are walking out of the theater in the first 20 minutes because they don't understand what's happening.
That's harsh. This isn't Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3 is a coherent story, though. Like, Sam Raimi is a...
As well.
What?
I think that's harsh as well. I don't think that's...
I think there's too much hype going into this movie that people would walk out in the first half hour.
I'm talking about, like, casual people. Casual people that don't, like, know what Marvel is, or they're just like... Oh, it's a woman superhero movie. We'll go see this. What the fuck is happening? Aliens in space, and oh my god, we're leaving now.
But I don't think people walk out on movies for such. People walk out on movies if they're truly offended by what's happening. This isn't offensive. It's just people are confused.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe that's
we'll see.
Me and my level-headed being and my willingness to walk out on a movie.
If you had to pick the first 30 minutes of Captain Marvel versus the first 30 minutes of Wonder Woman, which would you rather sit through?
I don't remember the first 30 minutes of Wonder Woman.
Okay, so that's you. What about you? It seems like also the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's really similar, isn't it?
I don't remember the first 30 minutes of Wonder Woman.
It's too close.
But I'm also worried that it's that similar.
That's what I'm saying. It's too close.
That worries me. And I mean, I know I was the dick who compared the two together in the first 5 seconds of this podcast. But I am a woman, so come at me. So I can do it. But
I ain't gonna refute.
You heard that, Cal? Hit her.
He's
Yeah.
not gonna hit anybody.
Come at her hard.
He's not gonna hit anybody.
I accept hate mail
Maybe
if
me.
you have a problem. But so
He'll call you a pussy. That's like the worst thing that he could do. But like, it's all
I
good.
welcome it,
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly. Me too.
If anyone wants to call me a pussy, that's never happened before, so yeah, come at me. But what was I talking about? I don't even remember now.
Captain Marvel's
All right.
opening versus Wonder Woman's opening.
There's 5 more minutes on this discussion before we have to finish this show out with the news. So, give your final thoughts on the movie. Like
On the 20
if there's
point
any,
scale.
if there's any, yeah, I want you to
The
rate it.
20-point scale is fucking horse shit. I won't review it on that.
Okay,
But
so review it on your own scale, but then also this is the last 5 minutes of Captain Marvel discussion. So say what you want to say about the movie.
well, I don't remember what I was talking about
Oh, great.
because I was distracted by something.
Okay, John.
I think it is
Are
a
you kidding
movie that
What was I talking about?
could have
I
delivered.
thought.
Sorry.
I'll think about it. No,
Okay,
you go
we'll
ahead.
come back to it. It's a movie that could have delivered well on classic comic source material, but also convoluted comic source material, but instead chose to opt into a familiar formula for their films, which is comedy, one-liners, and ties to the other films, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just feels not new for me. It's still a good film. I would give it a 7 out of 10. 7 flat.
So it's
Out of 10.
out
Which
of
is still
10.
pretty
So
good.
it's a 10-point scale out of 10.
Well, he didn't use a
7.
decimal point.
I could have
Out
used
of
7 and a
10.
half, but I didn't. I used 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Okay, so it's a 10-point scale. Awesome. So, Zach just rolled his eyes into the back of his head as far as he could.
I think this is the most
This
Zach
is the
has
biggest
been
fight we've ever
disappointed in
had.
the two of us in his entire life.
No,
He's
that's not true.
annoyed that I'm involved
He's-
in
he's
this
All right.
annoyed
podcast
that
now.
he-
3
he's
minutes.
annoyed that
There's
he
3
even-
minutes left. 3
Okay,
He's
minutes
annoyed
left.
that he
So,
even brought
I
the
give
two of us
this-
to a Marvel movie.
I give this a 6.5 out of 10. Feels right for me.
That's a 20-point scale.
Anything else you want to say?
No, it's out of 10. It's a 10-point scale with half steps.
Okay. I was reading reviews on Captain Marvel the other day, right when the review embargo lifted for the movie, and I was kind of looking through the Rotten Tomato score. Right now, it's sitting at an 87 or 88% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's certified fresh. It's a positive reviewed film. It's one of the better reviewed Marvel movies in the last 5 to 6 years. One of the best in the
Not up
third
against
phase.
much, though.
What I want to say, one of the reviews that I read was very fascinating, and they said that this is a Phase 4 movie that feels like a Phase 1 movie.
I would agree.
And they said that as a criticism. I think I would say that as a positive. Is that some of my favorite Marvel movies are the Phase 1 movies where they're a little bit
there
more
are
simple.
2, maybe 3 really good Phase 1 Marvel movies.
That's the thing, is that I think some of my favorites are the Phase 1
think
movies.
Iron Man 1, Captain America 1, Avengers are really good movies.
And then you have
With
The Incredible Hulk.
Thor,
And Thor.
Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 being good movies, right? So like it's not like they're horrible movies, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. Like I have most of those movies on DVD and I watch them a lot. But I would agree with that statement where it's like Captain Marvel does feel a lot like a first phase, which maybe was intentional to fit into the time frame, which is interesting.
Well,
right?
I don't think that
maybe
it was...
it's not meant for us.
Okay, so let me finish real quick before
Yeah,
we
go
finish
ahead.
this up. Like I said, they said, I think that it's a positive that this is a review, that this is a movie that feels like a Phase 1 movie, because I feel like they're really trying to do diligence in setting this character up. I feel like they faltered a little bit in hammering down really the origins of Carol Danvers. But I think that they also really faltered in Thor. And yet, Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite movies of all time. So All I'm saying is that I think that they've set up a character that I really enjoy. I enjoy Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel more now than I did when I saw Thor in 2009, right? For me,
even with that Shakespearean plot,
fuck Kenneth Branagh, fuck the direction. That movie has
fuck you. Kenneth Branagh is a great director.
That movie has terrible cinematography. Go back, it doesn't hold up. Captain Marvel at least has a style and a substance, and it sticks to it. And I think that going forward, she will be a character that I really, really love. I just think that this is the movie that they had to start out with, and I don't think that it's perfect, but I personally would give it like a 7.5, maybe an 8 on a good day. It passes. It's a C. It doesn't strike the perfectness of like a Civil War or an Infinity War, but it doesn't hit the rock bottomness of like a Thor: The Dark World. It's like right in the middle there of being like really, really good, but it also stumbles a little bit, so it doesn't make it so perfect that it's perfect. It's a solid movie. Are you waiting for a high five?
No, I have a question.
Okay, you had a question.
I don't think this movie, and I don't think Captain Marvel will be as beloved as Black Panther was in 2018. I don't think it will make as much money, and I don't think it'll be as critically acclaimed overall over the course of the year. Which is,
we'll see.
Again,
We'll
isn't
see.
a knock to the movie, but it's just like, it's hard to stay on the top of the heap, right?
I agree with that.
I mean, Black Panther struck a chord like worldwide. It's
That
hard
is-
to
that
strike
is
that same
a-
chord.
Wait,
That is
Black
a
Panther
phenomenon.
was wildly different than anything.
That is a phenomenon.
Especially superhero movie that we had experienced before. But like,
Yeah.
I think I like this
this
better than
wasn't,
Black Panther.
exceptionally different.
Yeah,
This was
I think that's cool that you like it better
this
than
was
Black Panther. I
slightly
really
different.
do. I really do.
Wait,
We
do?
can
I don't-
we could get
I
on
don't-
we
I
could get
don't
on a whole
agree.
Do you like
tangent.
this better than
I
Black
don't
Panther?
agree
Is
at
that what
all,
you just
but I'm
said?
glad that you like this movie.
I think so. Black Panther has great moments, but it loses its ideology in the third act, and it just results to fighting. It results to fighting in terrible CGI and all these fucking
That's-
dumbass CG rhinos fighting each other. And
what
there's
this movie results to at the end. Though.
No, it doesn't.
CGI ships fighting one person.
But it's Carol Danvers showing her
space
powers.
isn't
Like at the end of Black
CGI.
Panther, it's just like no-name warriors fighting each other with fake CG rhinos. Like at least at the end of this, there was like some real physical combat and like some physical. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into this because I feel like we
I think
get
we
completely
spent
off
like
the
an
rails.
hour and a half on this movie.
Yes,
I
we've
think we
s-
should talk about the other topics.
We've spent an hour on it in a couple.
Go
seconds.
see Captain Marvel, and we'll talk about this one
Yeah.
again.
We will revisit this
Okay,
in a few months.
you sure?
After Endgame, because I'm curious to know how this movie, like you said, I'm more
I
curious.
think
than
this
anything
movie only exists really well in people's minds because of Endgame, and I'm sorry. I think
doubt
that's
it.
the only
I
reason.
doubt it. I think this is the first major female in the MCU that
I
has
think
their own
this is
solo movie. I
If
think this is a
Endgame
big
was
deal.
coming out 2 years from now, I don't think people would give a shit.
I have high hopes,
Huh?
but it's my. I don't know. I'm cynical about it. So I want to believe what you're believing, but the realism makes me think what John is thinking, which is sucky.
I don't know. I'm an analyst when it comes to film, and if the number, like we said, this is projected to be one of the highest grossing superhero movies ever, maybe one of the highest grossing movies ever. I think the numbers will speak for themselves. And I personally think that this movie isn't going to tackle Black Panther because Black Panther hit an audience that is global. There's plenty of other countries that don't like white women in their leads, right? Okay, so
Right.
but
It's
they're
just-
getting
it's
better
just
with
weird
black
that this
men
movie
being their
could
leads.
consider better than Black Panther, The Dark Knight, Logan, like films like that are significantly better. in
They
my
consider
opinion.
what you're saying. I
like
consider
those
this better.
movies will be considered better in terms of film and box office. Right, but because they align the stars perfectly without other things getting in their way,
Yeah.
they might make more money.
Well, it's like personally, I don't really feel like Black Panther deserved many of the Oscars that it got. right?
You are like in the minority with there, but like I respect it so much.
But
like,
it's a fucking comic book movie, right? It's not the Black Panther. When I got out of it, I was like, that was entertaining,
like,
but that's not a piece of art. The Dark Knight is a piece of art. Black Panther is a really entertaining comic book movie with a message. The Dark Knight is art. That deserves Oscars. That deserves awards and accolades. This movie doesn't deserve awards and accolades, right? Captain Marvel does not deserve that. But what it does deserve, I think, is a fair fighting chance. And I think that I enjoyed the movie a lot, and I'm excited to see it again.
It'll definitely get a fair fighting chance, but I think we will forget about it after Endgame.
Well, we'll see. The tides will tell all odds, John Parker.
For sure.
Let's talk about the news. Give me some news intro to.
Fuck, I mean, Captain Marvel came out. You want to talk about that shit?
From comicbookmovie.com, Will Smith will not return as Deadshot in James Gunn, The Suicide Squad.
Fuck that movie.
It turns out that, and this goes right into the second article because we don't need to dwell on that, Idris Elba is in talks to replace Will Smith as Suicide Squad sequel. The movie follows the exit of...
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That movie's gonna be garbage.
No, it's not.
Like,
James
I
Gunn's
like
directing.
James Gunn, but like, fucking let it go.
No, it's gonna be good.
Let it go.
I bet you it's gonna be good.
I hope you're right.
I bet you it's gonna be good. They're gonna throw caution to the wind. That's gonna have a whole new... the thing, though, that was like crazy to me is that, like, all right, so Deadshot's gone. Jared Leto hasn't confirmed that he's coming back. It's like, why not just make a separate movie? You know? Why call it Suicide Squad? Let's do something different. But either way, Idris Elba is Deadshot. As a comic book fan, I want your opinion. Forget about
Idris Elba as
forget
Floyd
about Will Smith.
Okay.
If they told you tomorrow, like, hey,
that sounds like a fucking dream article.
Okay,
it really does. Idris Elba is a fantastic actor. I think he was great as Heimdall. I think he would be even more charismatic as Floyd Lawton. However, it just seems like they're grabbing up the sloppy seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you go for that chick that's already fucked your friend, and then you're just like... You know what I'm saying, Carly?
What now?
Exactly.
I wouldn't know.
No, but it's just like it just seems like it's just like, hey, you know what you liked about Suicide Squad? Here's some more people.
Yeah.
But like, I love James Gunn, and I still wish that they got him from Guardians 3 because I don't think that movie's ever gonna happen.
Well,
I just don't like replacing actors with anybody ever.
The only one I liked
make it
was
happen,
Maggie
or
Gyllenhaal
don't.
for fucking Katie Holmes.
I agree with that. I also
give me some of that shit.
I also think that Michael Gambon as Dumbledore was the much better choice.
That's a really good thing that is not brought up enough. What do you think about that shit? Wait a second. Pause the fucking podcast.
No.
Michael Gambon is a quality actor.
Michael Gambon is the perfect Dumbledore.
He's a better Dumbledore than fucking Richard Harris ever was.
For sure.
Sorry for the Richard Harris fans out there, but like...
he was
he's
the
old
much
as
better
shit.
decision.
Like, think about that for a little bit. Michael Gambon is...
Perfect.
Dude,
Dumbledore.
I have never been more attracted to you than fucking now. Let's go.
go.
What do you think?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Give me some. Give me some. We're back on track.
However,
let's go.
All right.
However,
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
All right, so we got another trailer for Detective Pikachu, in which Pikachu says "hell." Everybody,
I agree with you.
everybody, you ready? Did you watch this? Did you watch this trailer? Okay. How perfect does this look?
This movie looks like it's gonna make $1 gajillion.
I think I'm gonna cry. I think I'm going to cry. I think I'm gonna see it 5 times in theaters. I'm gonna cry.
I think Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are gonna be like having breakfast one day, and he's gonna be like, "Remember that Pikachu movie?" And she's just gonna be like, "Yeah," and he's gonna be like, "Guess how much I got paid for that today?" What donk? And he's just gonna throw his fucking penis out.
I'm loving how I love the
look at that Bulbasaur.
I love the look of the monsters, obviously, but like the practical effects in the movie actually seem like it looks like I hate this. Seems so dumb to say, but this is like the Force Awakens of video game movies. It actually looks legit.
No, I understand.
It doesn't look like a
where you're
fucking
coming from.
phony ass
Do
copy.
you guys remember that Force Awakens trailer? If we were to do an episode where we talked about the greatest trailers of our time, that would be creeping up there.
Like, I'm not I love the original I love, like, Pokemon up until Gold and Silver, but, like, this makes me nostalgic for, like, it's fucking Cubone, and then there's goddamn the Eevee right there. It's amazing. It's amazing. I can't wait for this movie. I can't wait. I think it's gonna be... This might be the first video game movie to, like, really be good, in my opinion.
This will be the first video game movie to make $1 billion.
To make $1 billion? I hope so. I hope it's good. I love Ryan Reynolds. I think that any project he attaches himself to post X-Men Origins, he's like, listen. I'm going to be a part of your thing, but we're going to do it the right way, right? He's not going to be mouth sewn shut Deadpool again, where he's like, back to back. Remember that? Mm-hmm. We fight him on our turf, and they fight him on top of a fucking nuclear silo.
I think Pokemon will be, if you take a look at this decade, it's going to be one of the most highest grossing movies in the past 20 years.
I am so curious to see the opening weekend numbers. Because
that Pokemon movie is going to make fucking Titanic numbers.
Well, I don't know if you saw.
Watch that shit.
I don't know if you saw, but it officially got rated by the MPAA with a PG rating.
This movie looks like goddamn horseshit.
We'll talk about that in a second. Pokemon Detective Pikachu got rated PG, which is kind of surprising for the Pokemon universe because it's the first movie that it has swearing. It has swearing in it.
I would say that's fair though.
Pikachu.
I mean, he says like what hell and shit.
But still, can you imagine?
Welcome to the 21st century, Buck Rogers. We're gonna fucking say bad shit.
Carly's done with this. All right, so let's talk about Dark Phoenix. Here we go. John, focus up. Dark Phoenix. Here we go. What do you think about this trailer?
You don't have to listen to me. So clearly you were done with it. If you were willing to listen.
This trailer looks like hot trash.
This looks like somebody
movements.
took some fucking shit.
Did you?
Put it in
Okay, so did you watch? You watch this whole trailer?
I did. I don't know.
This trailer looks like
pause it?
fucking garbage.
Can you pause it? I really don't want to watch it anymore.
No, we have to watch it the whole way through. So
Phoenix.
Yeah, this is the last modern
movie.
X-Men movie with like Michael Fassbender, and that's what's her name? What's her name?
Lawrence?
Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Crybaby.
So much more.
Jennifer. Oh, I'm too hot. I'm in my blue. All my nipples are showing in my blue spandex, and I'm in these really important movies with David Lynch. And
I would have watched that shit so much.
not David Lynch. David Lynch would make a good movie with her in it. Wait, what? David or Russell? Yeah. But this movie just looks like trash.
But
I'm so sad. I wanted this movie to be
really
good.
Sad is it's literally the cast. That's the saddest part about this.
It said it's wasted
they
potential.
gave their fucking shit for First Class and Days of Future Past to be good.
Those movies are great.
Which are really good movies.
Great
and then they're
movies.
like, keep going. And then they're like, wait, this script is bad. And they're like, no, keep going. And
didn't they bring back...
Like, holy shit.
They brought back Bryan Singer for Apocalypse, right?
They did.
And everyone was like,
remember that, obviously.
Bryan Singer.
And then this one, they're like, we're done.
It just looks
also
like a pile of trash.
it is.
I mean, I want to root for Sophie Turner, and I love Michael Fassbender, and I love James McAvoy.
Tweet. I just want Michael Fassbender to live.
I am just
We all
so
agree
worried.
with you, but like this looks like
Hot garbage.
hot garbage. Yeah.
Tree.
So then we also got Shazam. This trailer played in front of Captain Marvel tonight, but you guys were getting shots, so you didn't see it.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the new trailer. Here, wait. Hope YouTube doesn't copyright us.
You're so fucked up. I'm sorry, Zach.
You have to comment on it. Oh,
shit.
isn't that cool though?
That's really
that
cool.
shot of him like flying
That's
over
really
the city.
Cool.
I hope this is their like dark horse where it's like people aren't expecting
This
it to be
movie
super good,
is
but
gonna
it
be
actually ends
really
up being
fun. Is my prediction, but it's
I don't like this trailer as much as the first one, but I still
No.
think it's a good tone.
so far I just like it. I just think it's funny.
I like that. That's a great line. The bad thing is that it's like...
You know that's Connor's birthday, right? April 5th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Shout out to Connor Kemp.
I like Mark Strong, but I kind of wish they just would have fucking said no and put Dwayne Johnson in it. He catches a bus.
What's happening? I can't keep up.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see it, but it's like...
So here's the deal.
It's just so
That
goofy.
movie just looks like fucking straight goofy. You know what I mean? Like it just looks goofy.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I think they finally found their work.
Well, that's the thing is that like the director of
Aquaman was that.
The
goofy.
funny thing is that the director of this movie is what's
Is
his
it
name?
Todd Phillips or is that the Joker movie?
That's the Joker movie.
David O. Russell.
David Sandberg, who did movies like Lights Out, and he's known for horror. David Sandberg has done Lights Out, Annabelle. He did an Annabelle movie, Annabelle Creation.
That's a great movie.
He did Ladyboy.
So here's one thing I will say about this director. There is one part of the Shazam marketing that I've been a huge fan of, and it's like more powerful than a steaming locomotive, which is one of the old like 1930s Superman taglines. And it's like Zachary Levi like takes a jump into the side of a building. It like rips a hole in the side of it, and people are like, "Hey, what the hell?" And they're just like. They're extreme. It's just really funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it seems like they're not taking themselves seriously.
I hope they don't.
Probably the idea.
I hope they don't. Yeah, I hope they don't. I hope they don't fucking Batman v Superman it where we think it's a great idea and then all of a sudden they fuck it up.
I think it looks really fun, and that's my birthday movie, so I look forward to going and seeing that with you guys.
All right, so we got two more stories
Hopefully you have
and
a good
my
time. Otherwise, fuck you.
we have two more stories. My laptop's on 9%, so we're gonna finish this shit.
Let's
up
go.
strong.
We're not even going to talk about Galaxy's Edge.
Disney lost the best animated film at the Oscars for the first time since 2006.
I believe it because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a goddamn masterpiece. Give me some of that shit.
Did you?
Fuck you, Pixar.
I stood up and clapped, and Carly had to tell me, "Please don't clap. We have neighbors."
That movie is
That movie is embarrassing.
That movie is
How
fucking
excited he was.
religion. Like,
I mean, it
don't
was
fucking
awesome.
shut that shit down. That's it.
Stop. No, it was awesome, but like Zach was on another level.
So going along with Spider-Verse, do you have any other strong opinions about the Oscars?
That is my favorite movie of the past 5 years.
Any other strong opinions?
That's it.
How'd you feel about Green Book?
I mean, that movie probably doesn't deserve to win the Best Picture, but I do still think it is a really good movie and it is definitely worth watching. However, like, I think the Oscars were extremely all over the place this year in terms of like what they actually wound up with. We talked about this earlier, but like I did watch A Star Is Born. I do think that should have been considered for more things. But in terms of like if you had to look back at the big picture, like Green Book probably not considered the best film of the year for sure. But it is still a good film. So like please do not count that movie out because it went up against like stuff like Roma and Star Is Born and Black Panther and all that stuff.
Have you watched Roma?
Do consider it. It's the next on my list.
Okay. I'll be curious to know your feelings after you watch
I mean,
it.
like, before watching it, I could tell you that Roma is a better directed movie than Green Book. But that doesn't mean that I necessarily
Sure,
like it. I think
well,
Green
yeah,
Book has
for
a
sure.
really heartfelt story. And people are just, like, really easy to shit on the fact that Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali, two actors that I think all three of us really like, do their fucking heart outs in that movie. And people just really don't seem to care.
Well, the funny thing is
they really
that,
don't seem to care.
I
Because
didn't
they think it's racist.
Well, I didn't think anything of it. Like, you told me you were like, I like Green Book a lot. You should watch Green Book. I was like, okay, I'll get around to it, right? I knew it was in contention for Best Picture. The internet fucking
Hated it.
hates
Yeah.
Green Book. Like,
Which is like the fucking story of my life. But like, yeah.
but it's just so weird. Like, I would have never guessed that. It's like,
Yeah.
they fucking hate that movie.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. It's like a vitriol sort of hate. Like, people were like... But the thing is that, like, usually it's like they're rooting for something else, but people weren't really rooting for anything else. They were just like...
hate that movie.
They just don't like that it was
Have you seen it
cookie
yet?
cutter. I still haven't seen it, yeah.
Right. If you do ever see that movie, I really am curious to see what you think about it. I really am. Like, whether you hate it or not, I really won't care. So please don't hold back.
I don't hate many movies.
I think this will be one of the movies that will be like, the hell happened? Like, I love the movie. I don't think it should be Best Picture, but I love the movie.
Sure.
It's going to be one of those movies where it's like, if you like Green Book, you can go fucking suck a big cock. You know what I mean? And it's just like, hey, dude, like, I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Please don't personally attack me. But that's the way it feels right now. Like, after the Academy Awards, I was like, I feel bad about the other nominees, but I'm like, I'm kind of happy because I actually saw this movie and I really enjoyed it. But then, like, I didn't want to fucking look at the comments at all. Because I literally thought the comments would be a personal attack against myself. Which is the fucking world we live in. You know what I mean? I have looked at Green Book comments and The Last Jedi comments and The Last of Us comments, to be honest with you. Like, I've looked at both. It's really hard. Like, there are people that tell you that you shouldn't exist on the planet.
For sure. That's just internet trolls.
Which is, I know, but like, that's kind of...
It is.
That's pretty awful.
Yeah.
It's intense, like, no matter what you're talking about.
There are people that, like you could tell the world 100 times over that The Last of Us is my favorite video game of all time, and people will tell you that because I chose that as my favorite video game, that I shouldn't deserve to exist on this planet.
All right. We have 2 more stories. My computer's at 8%, or else I wouldn't be rushing this along. John, I love you. You deserve to exist.
We're not cutting this short because of your ability
Trust me.
to exist
Trust me.
on Earth.
This is important.
It's the troll's fault.
This is important. Disney considering National Treasure 3.
Do it!
I hope it happens.
Yes.
Quote,
No,
here we
do
go.
it.
This comes from Comic Book Reporter. It says, while Disney is getting ready to make its impending merger with Fox official and working out how to integrate all of its new properties under one umbrella, a shareholder meeting revealed some new information about an older Disney franchise, National Treasure, and its long-rumored third installment. Disney CEO Bob Iger gave an update on the possible installment in the Jerry Bruckheimer-produced Nicolas Cage vehicle during an annual shareholders meeting. Iger revealed he is in touch with Bruckheimer and is aware of his desire to make another installment in the series. As Iger said, Bruckheimer would, quote, would like to make a third movie, and I know that discussions about that film have gone on probably since 2016 with our studio. I know that they have not greenlit such a film, end quote. So it looks like we might be getting another National Treasure, baby.
I want to be Ed Harris in the next movie. And Sean Bean. I want to be the bad guy.
I will be there for that midnight
be
release.
Will you be my
all
fucking...
the good guys.
Will you be my henchman?
You better learn
Can I have a
if Sean can catch.
Can the National Archives woman become a bad guy then and join your team?
Honestly, like, our team's gonna fucking clean up faster than Star Force. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna fucking rule this shit.
But okay.
I think that
wanna
one
be on a
last-
winning
I think
team.
it's
Alright.
really interesting that they're playing into our demographic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I will say about that story.
Okay, one last story and then we'll end this because I gotta have another slice of pizza and I also have to use the bathroom.
For sure.
From
for it.
CNBC.com.
I'm so fucked up!
Disney Plus will house Disney's entire motion picture library, including movies traditionally kept in the vault.
What the fuck?
It says Walt Disney Company's new streaming service, Disney Plus, will include movies from Disney's vault that have been periodically withheld from public purchase. CEO Bob Iger confirmed during the company's annual shareholder meeting on Thursday. By the end of 2019, Disney Plus will be available to consumers. It will feature new content from Star Wars, Marvel. It will be unclear if Disney will be releasing classic films like Cinderella, Bambi, or Peter Pan. But on Thursday, Iger confirmed that it would at some point put its entire motion picture library on the service. So, John,
Yeah.
as Disney fans, how are we feeling about the entire Disney library?
Dude, I'm ready because more than ever, the fucking Star Wars land is opening this year.
Yeah.
And you know what happens in the Star Wars land? You get a goddamn customized personal droid that goes around in your backpack and tells you when the First Order is close by.
Oh, man.
That's fucking radical, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's goddamn like casting a spell. That's better than Wingardium Leviosa. It's like, hey, the fucking First Order is nearby. You better deck into this alley. And then you go there, and then the droid's like... And then you're like, all right, thanks, R2, it's good to go. And then you step out and you're like, oh shit, I should get a fucking cocktail. And they're like, you want a Tauntaun cocktail? And they're like, boom. And there's a Tauntaun cocktail. Like, let's go. It's a good time to be a Disney shareholder.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Radiovania. My name is Zach Fratello at Zach Fratello on Twitter and Instagram. And sitting across from me is John Parker at John Parker, Dat John Parker.
What up?
I'm Carly Simendinger, and you can reach me because my name is the same thing always because nobody has my name.
And, she's available for graphic design if you ever want that.
I'm
Design that
super
shit.
talented. Hire me.
Not only is she available, she's the best.
Thank you guys for
That's
listening
the
to this
truth.
episode of Radiovania. I'm glad that we were able to discuss Captain Marvel and all the news that we messed up in the last month. John, I think the next time we get together is going to be for Endgame.
That's so much stress
That's a lot of stress.
for me. Even.
So,
I'm
everybody
involved.
rewatch your MCU favorites. I know that I'll be doing
My
the same.
favorite Marvel movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. What's your favorite Marvel movie?
Okay, well, Iron Man, because it was the first one I ever saw.
Infinity War.
There we go. That's 3 quality films.
So we will be watching all of the Marvel movies in the next coming month as we prepare for Endgame, but in the meantime, you can follow us at Radiovania or RadiovaniaShow@gmail.com for your questions and comments, or you can just go to Radiovania.com to watch all of our videos. But, John, do you have any at-dat topics, or do you want to just close this bitch out?
I am Captain Marvel.
All right, good night, everyone. We'll see you later.